Logos are an essential part of pretty much any website. A lot of times, though, I find myself not bothering with creating a logo for a lot of my Amazon niche websites simply because I end up creating so many of them. And once I finish constructing a site, I oftentimes don't revisit it. But MoonPixlar really gives me the ability to quickly churn out a lot of graphics for one of my Amazon niche websites, and the logos is a big part of this. Now, for the different types of logos that they have available here, I really haven't noticed a major difference. I believe the size may be one of the main differences with these, where you have a smaller as opposed to larger ones. However, they all seem to be still pretty large. So ultimately, I wouldn't put too much worry into which one of those you're selecting. You're going to get all the same themes and templates no matter which one you choose. So to begin with, as far as your theme selection goes, it works just like with any of the other choices where you get a decent selection. This one actually gives you a fair number of them to work with. The main thing that you want to be paying attention to, though, is how are you going to utilize this logo? Where on your website are you going to put it? What are the surrounding colors of that section of your website? If you have a website that is mostly white, it has a white background, the header is white, you would most likely want to be choosing one of them that has a white background to go along with it. So for example, this one here, call center, has this little icon. Everything else, though, is white. So when I put this into a section of my website, then it's going to blend in. It's not going to be like a big box. Whereas if I were to be building one of these, perhaps, these actually have a black background, even though they don't seem to be showing it here. I've created this one, though, and it definitely saves with a black background. So I believe there's just a couple of those that are like it. The rest of them, though, should have your standard white backgrounds, which most of you would likely be looking for. When you're creating these logos, though, you have a lot of white space around them, something worth pointing out. This may not necessarily be exactly what you would want to be creating for, say, the top of your website. In a lot of cases, you may be better off perhaps getting some ideas from this area. But then if you had particular dimensions that you wanted to be using for creating your logo, you could actually do that as a custom image and set those dimensions yourself. For the most part, though, all of these logos are really nothing but a word for the brand or the company name, and then some kind of an icon or image to go along with it. So changing these things is pretty simple and pretty basic. Editing your text. If you wanted to add your .com onto the end of it, that's quite all right too. For the icons, you may or may not have colors that you can change. This one looks like it appears to let you to set a color, but it'll change all the colors of that icon if you do set it. As you can see though, I do have a lot of white space. If I wanted to put this up at the top of my website, it may not be the best possible choice to go with. I could create a custom graphic here. You might also want to try using a website header if you wanted something that stretched across the entire page. The website header can be a good size to use for that though. I'm going to create a custom graphic here though for my logo just to give you an example to go on. I'm going to set this one to be 400 pixels wide by 100 pixels tall. So this is the actual size of the logo that I'm going to be creating. Now for the shape, this is going to be essentially my icon that I have to go along with it. I could do something like the home here. It doesn't initially show up because it's actually white. However, I can change that really easily and make it the correct size to fit nicely in my image here. So I have my little home there, and then I can put my text on. Now once you get your text put on, you will most likely want to be modifying it. Not only in what it says, but also likely in the arrangement of it too, and the colors and everything else. So you can do pretty much any kind of a text arrangement that you want to with this. You can do fairly standard stuff. Try out a couple of different fonts to go along with it. This is kind of the one reason or aspect why using the pre-built logos and those templates can be a little less stressful to deal with, because you do have these design elements kind of already picked out for you with a lot of those. But again, you don't really have as much flexibility with your overall size. So this is just a fairly basic example here for you of how you can actually try to do something like this from scratch. I could leave it fairly simple like that. I'd really recommend going for more simplicity over complexity when it comes to a logo. You may not want to do more complicated stuff like trying to put some kind of a background on it. Sure, you could try to put some kind of a background on it and set that background to lower opacity so it doesn't really show through as much. Have a little sleeping baby in the background or something like that. But overall, you do want to keep your logos fairly simplistic. Another option, if you are comfortable with doing things like resizing an image or cropping out part of an image, you can take those larger logos that are created. Here's an example that I created already with a black background using the sheep. I rearranged things a little bit so my domain name could fit in there too. I could take an image like this and edit it in terms of cropping out all the blank space that I don't need, and then load that up into WordPress. But that's not something for everyone, which is why I did want to show you this alternative technique of creating a logo from scratch. However, if you're not comfortable with doing that, you can certainly still use these normal logo setups like you see here and just simply make adjustments to them accordingly and save and export and load these up in the headers of your site, or even use it for things like Facebook fan pages, wherever else you might need to be displaying your logo or doing some kind of self-promotion. This can come in handy in all those cases.